All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're calling this Politics, the State of Play. That's what we're going to talk about, and it's all about the matters on the front pages of the Standard and the Daily Nation as well. My guest already with me here, Honorable Eliud Owalo, the Senator for Migori. Thank you for making time. Honorable Hilary Sigei, the Senator for Bomet. Thank you for making time. Honorable Joe Nyutu, the Senator for Moranga. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
And Franklin Mukwanja, Executive Director, Center for Multi-Party Democracy. Thank you very much for making time. And Mukwanja, I'll start with you. You're the first one here. What is your assessment of the general state of politics today as we speak? I know it's only the 13th day since the year began and a lot has been happening. There's a lot of pronouncements. Which formation do you see working? Which direction is it?
I think, Trevor, and first, Happy New Year to Kenyans. This being the first show of 2026 for me. And also Happy New Year to you, Trevor. Thanks for the invitation. First, let me state clearly that looking at the state of play in terms of politics between now to the general elections, I think the most attractive political lady on the field today until the general elections is His Excellency the President William Ruto. And for several reasons. One is he's leading one of the most, strong political formations. The combination of sections of UDA and ODM cannot be understated. And also Raila Odinga, the late Prime Minister, left him in a very vantage position. That there was already some working arrangement, one, and number two, that there were actually the 10-point agenda that should be pursued. And the other fact is that initially I actually expected that President William Ruto would require a very calculated, strong hand to weaken ODM, but they are self-cannibalizing. And therefore, President William Ruto does not need to do much. And therefore, I see that he's quite placed. And the reason actually is that all these political heavyweights are looking for survival, in my view. And it is easier for them to mark time another 5 years than to have a fresh 10 years. And if you look at the politics that happen at the local level, you will see that even in Bomet, where my friend just is smarting from party internal elections, looking at the outcomes, is that the ground is shifting. And those that have a one-term, possibility of coming in for one term only, like his possible opponent for the gubernatorial race, if he's still in the race, is that he's having his sway on the local grassroots. So the politics is that those ones that are like William Ruto, and the one term I'm talking about, Trevor, is different. That the one term of 2026 and 2027 is actually that President William Ruto is saying, I am here for the shortest period. So you're better off doing a deal with me to wait out for a shorter time than a new guy coming on board for the longer period. So the most attractive, politically speaking, lady on the pitch now is William Ruto. ODM has done itself a disservice. It was left in a very strong position with complete grassroots elections and reorganizing. It was left with an agenda, the 10-point agenda, but I don't think there's much that is happening in. These stories of we beginning negotiations with various formations is simply a smokescreen. Okay. ODM and UDA, a majority of them would firmly want to have some sort of arrangement going into 2027. And the ideal situation for them is all those who have ambitions to become something in the aftermath see William Ruto as most attractive because of the duration that he will have them waiting out.
Okay. Okay, what is ODM's position as we speak?
First of all, good morning, Trevor. Good morning. As well as Happy New Year to you and the team that works here day and night and all year through to make sure that the country keeps informed. I'm also very glad that this year God has given us life. It's not something we take for granted. I'm happy to see my brothers in the Senate, Senator Nyutu, as well as Senator Sigei, as well as my brother here, who we have worked with for such a long time. Since my early days as a young person, we worked so much closely on these democratic ideals in the civil society. So I'm also happy to see you here, my friend. I think that the simple answer is that the ODM position is on black and white, because the most recent ODM position was given yesterday by the Central Committee. But in that simplicity, there is also very serious complexity. First of all, I don't think that ODM taking a stand through, of course, the leadership of our party and our party organ called the Central Committee, having made the decision that we want to start having a conversation around the next election with different parties, is a small one. It's a big decision, and it's a decision which right from the start, I must say that we really support. So that is the ODM position, because where we are going in 2027, we definitely must also just prepare for 2027 elections, just like any other party does prepare for these elections. The opposition parties, however little they are, you know, some like the DCP, these small parties that have mushroomed, are also preparing for election. The main ruling party, UDA, it is very big, is also preparing for elections, but the biggest party in the continent, probably because of the way ANC has really struggled, ODM still remains the biggest party in the continent, must also prepare for the election. So therefore, the position of the party is that we are preparing just like other party. But there is a way that I must agree with my brother here, that preparing for the election is too small a job for ODM. The ODM party cannot just prepare for the election. The ODM party is a party that was founded to be able to fight for the rights of Kenyans, to be able to fight for the ideals of democracy, to be able to fight for the ideals of social democracy, that means inclusive development, including things like devolution, ODM fought and brought, things like the constitution, ODM fought and brought. So it will be myopic for us as a party to think that 2027 is the most critical thing we must be focusing on. 2027 is going to come so fast, and it's going to go so fast. That means that the biggest challenge that we have in ODM now is keeping the party united and keeping the party together. That's why, despite the fact that I support this position of the party, which I've said that a number of times that we must support the organs of the party and their decisions, which I stand by, like what happened yesterday, but it was the most underwhelming meeting I've ever seen in ODM Central Committee. Because as we speak right now, we must know in ODM that our biggest task is to keep Baba's party as a legacy, alive, united, standing for the people. And that task can easily be blurred if we focus only on 2027. As ODM, we must focus on beyond 2027. Yeah. Why am I saying this?
Why are you saying it was an underwhelming one?
It's underwhelming because this particular Central Committee was called in the pretext of warring factions in ODM. We have got serious voices in ODM that had serious problems and warring factions. If you remember, just a week ago, or with a week ago and a few days, I raised a very serious issue around the seat of our SG.
In fact, you wanted him out, and then you changed your
mind. And I changed my mind. I didn't change my mind.
You still want him out?
I said that the party leader reached out to me. If the party leadership is an organ that is established under our constitution with certain responsibilities under Article 16 of our constitution. And there are some issues that when they come from out of the party leader in his own wisdom is given the latitude to make sure that he can be able to solve them in a way that is at the best interest of the party. And I believe in it, because when I raised issues around Sifuna, our SG, Senator Sifuna, they were not personal issues. They were about the issues of the voice of the party called the SG. Can he be able to say some things as official and then deny them the next day? Like right now, the party leader has just read something that the SG should have read. If the SG talked about the possibility of going to coalition with other parties, would he denounce that in a separate meeting? That was the main bone of contention. But that said, it was in the larger question of the two factions, the major two factions that are in the party, because there's one faction that is a little bit diplomatic and sitting somewhere in between, And I told them, I've talked to some of their leaders or some of their voices and told them that in a revolution, if you sit at the fence or somewhere in the middle, you will be eaten by either sides. The major warring factions here are factions that are torn about broad-based and those that are torn about non-supporting broad-based, including the chance like one term. I think this is a very important issue that the party leader and the Central Committee cannot sweep under the table. They must actually confront it and address it, because the biggest and the hardest job, I don't like the easiest job. The easiest job is going to talk about coalitions. That even me as educator can lead those conversations. Yeah. Those are easy negotiations, because they're about 2027. Those are things that we can talk about.
What will they?
But the hardest conversation is how can we make sure that the ODM that is negotiating with any kind of formation is one party. That's the hardest job.
As it stands now, you think it's split right down?
I think people are still worrying, and they're still worrying functions. And my party leader gave me confidence when he said that we are going to embrace dialogue, and that dialogue agenda was not put in the Central Committee. I was expecting that even if I wasn't called to the Central Committee to be able to air some of these issues, I was hoping that maybe the two warring factions would have been sat in the Central Committee and be able to address some of these issues that we keep on addressing in public. Because they give the party a very bad image, and they give the party a big opportunity of being scathed by anybody. You just saw the recent attacks that we saw in one of the senior most party members on in that Central Committee that was in all over the media and also all over social media. These things are denting the party, and we must confront them as ODM and address them. How will we confront them? We'll only confront them if the leadership of the party takes chance that the next election is an important one that we must prepare for, but even the bigger job that we must prepare for is keeping ODM together beyond 2027.
Okay, we'll get into that in just a short while, but let me hear what Sige's assessment is going forward.
Thank you, Trevor, for hosting us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
To you, the rest of the team, and my colleagues this morning. I definitely a happy man to also be part of those who are setting up the agenda for the state of play as we begin another year, which is opening up to be a very interesting political space. We are almost 1 year, 8 months to the next general election. And when you look at the temperatures out there, both within political parties and even with the larger electorate, it is quite interesting. It tells you that Kenyans have appreciated the need to participate in whatever political formations that comes in, and also to engage, to get to understand beyond just their political interest. And I still have got the ink. My friend Mugwanja here made reference to the grassroots elections that we conducted, which we did over the weekend from among 20 counties on the United Democratic Alliance Party. And so when you talk about the state of play now in the political space, I look at it in the context of we now need to fully align ourselves among the various political parties which are there. You've heard my friend Eddie has picked up a very heavy conversation on the outcome of yesterday's Central Committee meeting of UDA. Similarly, we are now doing an evaluation sort of process of the grassroots elections that were conducted in the UDA zones, 20 counties to be precise. And tomorrow we're going to have the National Executive Committee, which will now validate all those elections, their outcomes, to have the delegates, 20 per polling station, to be part and parcel of the team that will progress to the ward level to elect another 20 thereafter at the sub-county level and subsequently at the county level. That tells you even UDA as the ruling coalition, it's seeking to make sure that there is full participation and involvement of every member from the lowest level of the representation space. And I'm looking at a very interesting 2026 within the political space. And the current situation, of course, as we say, is what the president has basically been talking about. Though we are planning for our political arrangements in the run-up to the 2027 general elections, the primary thing that we are supposed to do as a ruling coalition is to deliver services to the people of Kenya. And that is why, in as much as we are running grassroots elections, we are having discussions about possible post-election coalitions. We are looking at how do we expand and solidify the formations, whether it's broad-based, whether incorporating new other political parties. The primary responsibility of the current government is to make sure that the promises we made to the people of Kenya continues to be delivered. And I'm sure you've seen this with what the president is doing. He's cutting across the country. As at the moment, he just concluded a visit to Nyeri. Yesterday was in Nyeri. Not necessarily doing politics, but doing what he's supposed to do, the president. Okay. Some of us are basically now doing the politics of it. He's reaching out to all Kenyans to say, look, part of the conversation that we had when we came into power was to make sure that we unite all Kenyans. And that is exactly what I could call the state of play now. The executive doing their job to deliver to the people of Kenya, so that when it comes to the time now to run the politics, we will be having something to say. And he says as much, that the coming election will be about what you promised the people of Kenyans, what you have done, what you have been able to deliver from among the promises you made. It's going to be about issues. Okay. It's going to be about the uniting the people of Kenya. Yeah. And that is where we are headed to. And I'm happy that as of now, the state of play is, we are way ahead in terms of delivering to the people of Kenya, making the promise happen, and building stronger political parties. Okay,
we'll talk about the issues in the next hour once we take this break. But let me hear what Newton's assessment is of the state of politics right now, 13 days into the new year. And also, as you give that assessment, is the united opposition ready to have a discussion with the ODM brigade? Or do you want them to get their house in order first before you have a conversation?
Thank you, Trevor. And just like every other of my colleagues, Happy New Year to you and to the viewers. We thank God that He has been gracious enough to give us another year. And we actually don't take that for granted. We just hope and pray that God will continue sustaining us, and especially our country, and that, of course, tranquility, peace, and love may continue being, the major ideals that we follow this year. But Trevor, allow me to say that this year has started on a high political note in my assessment. And I was smiling within my heart when I heard my colleague and friend, Senator Sigei, say that the president is not playing politics. He was in Nyeri to do what a president is supposed to do. And that's not a new line. Of course, President Ruto will do politics while claiming not to be doing politics. And I say that because the president, I know most of us have been to Kigali or to Rwanda. You will rarely see President Kagame on car roofs, talking about the development that he's bringing to the people. I mean, development talks for itself. The president doesn't have to go to Nyeri to launch anything. I mean, if it's a road you are building, build the road. In fact, let your communication team say what you have done. You don't have to go. But the president, of course, is doing politics. And I don't know why somebody then will have to go on car roofs if you're just coming to launch a road and, talk about even other people, about many other things. But I say it has begun on a high political note because the president, of course, made a journey to Nyeri and, did a lot of politics. And of course sponsored violence against us on Sunday, very serious violence in Gatundu South against the deputy president, the second deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. And this is not unexpected, and we expect this to continue. Because of course, when you have inferior ideas, then you do not want those with big ideas, superior ideas to be heard. Because there is no other way that you can explain the continued sponsorship of violence against Rigathi Gachagua by President Ruto and his government. It's because he does not want Rigathi Gachagua to present his ideas to Kenya.
How is it his fault when there's violence in the political scene? You're laying this blame on the doorstep of the president.
Yes, because Trevor, you're a newsman and you know that we have had very many incidents where, goons have been given protection by the police. Nobody else control the police.
People say those are rogue politicians within the same circles as yourselves, not necessarily from
fine, whatever you may. On Sunday, for example, I know that is not the topic of discussion, but on Sunday, for example, there were many, and you reported, it was widely reported, there were many young men transported to Gatundu South that did not come from Gatundu South. And actually, they were repulsed, my members of the public from that particular region. And the vehicles that had ferried them, of course, some of them were disabled by locals, and it was there for everybody to see.
It's true, you reported that.
Yes, so
the question is, how do you know that this was from the president? In fact, there were some allegations that it's within your circles so that to create some level of sympathy. Yeah. We reported the violence. Yes, it's true. We all saw the violence.
Now,
how do you know?
Now, I hope you saw some of the young men that were, that were cornered in what they were saying. The people who had sent them are people who are close to William Ruto, and not only that. I mean, to answer that question, you would only need to look at what the police do when they come. I mean, whom do they protect? Who has been charged now? It is the young men who repulsed. There is no one charged from other areas. There were people saying they came from Gatie, others saying they came from other places. I mean, none of them has been charged. The locals are the ones that have been charged, and that's why I say that. But allow me to say what I think about the political situation, how it has begun and how it is likely to end. And I want to tell my friend Mukwanja, he said that Ruto is blessed because ODM is cannibalizing itself. I just want to tell him I hold a different view. ODM is not cannibalizing itself. Somebody is cannibalizing it from somewhere. So he's not blessed. It is actually his schemes that are paying off. Tell Joho, who is your CS, to go to the coast and say, if I don't get the leadership of ODM, then we will get even Aisha Jumwa, who does not belong to ODM but to UDA, saying that if Joho does not get the leadership of ODM, then the coast is going to break away from ODM and form its own political party. That was not Aisha Jumwa talking. I mean, this is somebody cannibalizing ODM. I do not belong to ODM, and so, by the way, I'm just making an observation. I don't care what happens to ODM because I'm not a member. But
you wanted them to be intact so that they support you as the united opposition.
No. For now, each political formation is trying to consolidate its base. I would tell you, if you ask me, that it is still very early to even start thinking about who will be together with who for now. So whatever happens to ODM is for ODM to decide. But I know, as a political observer who lives in this country, that somebody somewhere is cannibalizing ODM. Eddie may pontificate here and say this is a problem is Sifuna or other people, but the problem is not within. The problem with ODM, in my view, is not emanating from ODM. It is being manipulated or is being controlled from somewhere because ODM must, in the scheme of things, support William Ruto. And William Ruto, in my view, does not want anybody in ODM who is opposed to his being in a coalition, a pre-election coalition with ODM. And so all these things that are happening is to make sure that anybody holding a different view in ODM is kicked out of ODM. Okay. But allow me also to remind Eddie very quickly, there is a very big difference between small and young. He said that small parties like DCP Eddie, and I know he has very good English.
Yeah.
Please, I am just reminding him because he knows there is a difference between small and young.
No, that,
DCP is young, not small. You do not call a party, Eddie.
Gentlemen, I have to take a quick
You do
commercial
not
break.
call a party that is months old and has won 3 ward seats in different counties. You don't call that. You don't call that a small party.
Okay.
You call it a young party.
Young party. Okay, gentlemen, I have to take a quick commercial break. Let me take a commercial break. We are back with much more in just a short while. It's all about the politics. If your views coming, we'll read some of them in a short while.